Hello, this video is going to review how to access the Georgia Standards of Excellence. So to begin, you want to go to www.georgiastandards.org. Then you want to make sure to choose the Georgia Standards of Excellence tab. From there, over on the left side, you can browse the standards. Notice they have them divided by subject area. So if you wanted to look at, say, science standards, you would choose science. And then down here, you're able to pick the grade level. So if you're looking at maybe third grade science standards, you choose grade 3, and then you'll be able to look at them as segments or look at the entire set of standards. I would encourage you for the most part to look at the entire set of standards at this point. So under content resources, you would choose third grade science Georgia Standards of Excellence. So you click on that and you'll have a PDF. You'll then be able to scroll to look at the standards. So these are the science standards for grade 3 only. Now you'll notice that all of the standards, despite grade level or subject area, look kind of the same. They have the standard itself. And then most standards have smaller pieces to them, so A, B, C, D, etc. Notice that they all have a number as well. This will give you an idea of what type of standard it is. So the S is for standard. The 3 is for third grade. Actually, I'm sorry, the S is for science. The 3 is for third grade. The E is for earth and space science. And then this is the first standard. And then this one is science for third grade, earth and space science, standard 2. And so it's just kind of like almost like a call number when you go to the library. That way, if you have it, you know exactly what standard you're looking for. And so notice that it changes here. We're looking at science, grade 3, physical science, first grade. Now, most of the time when you're developing lesson plans, you're not going to teach this entire standard in one lesson. Usually that is way too much information to cover. A lot of times when you write a lesson plan, you focus on one sub area, so A, B, C, etc. So it might be that I write a lesson plan for S3E1A or S3E1A and B. Also, it might be that your lesson plan isn't designed to measure mastery of that lesson. So it might, or that standard. So it might be that you are exposing students to that standard, but it might not necessarily be that you're teaching them or expecting them to have learned that standard in its entirety. Depending on the subject area and the grade level, sometimes there are additional resources. So we looked here looking at the standards themselves. But here there is a curriculum map, which basically what this is it takes the standards and it organizes them into weeks. So it's almost like a guide of when are you going to teach those standards and in what sequence and in what pacing. So it's something that schools use to kind of help them decide when we're going to teach this and how long we're going to spend on it. In addition, sometimes there are instructional segments. These are very similar to lesson plans that you can use to teach that standard. So when you click on them, you can scroll down and you can see the standards that are going to be used, the objectives, the materials that are going to be needed, as well as how to actually complete the lesson plan. So again, these are almost like sample lesson plans that you can use and adapt based upon those standards. So let's go back and let's look at science standards again. And so we looked at third grade. Say that we're looking at sixth grade. I would choose that. Same thing. The standards are here. The curriculum map is here. The pacing guides as well as instructional segments, which are kind of like lesson plans. So I click on that. And notice that the structure is very much the same. There's the main standard with the call number. So we're looking at science, grade 6, earth and space science, standard 1. And then A, B, C, D, E. Very similar. You'll see a consistent setup of those standards across the grade levels and subject areas. Now let's go back and look at high school. So in high school, things start to get a little bit different because, as you can imagine, in high school, you take astronomy, and it might be that it's ninth grade, it might be that it's 12th grade. It depends on what grade level you're in. Sometimes you have multiple grade levels in the same class, so you kind of have to take those with a grain of salt. So you would pick what subject area you're teaching. So let's say that we're looking at environmental science. We scroll down, and again, the standards themselves are very much the same. Science, environmental science, standard 1. So they look the same, but again, the setup is different because high school isn't always done by grade level because sometimes you have classes that have multiple grade levels in them. So let's look at social studies really quick. Very similar. Social studies, they're done in bands. So you have K5, 6, 8, 9, 12. So if I want to look at K5, I choose those. And then I can choose the individual grade level that I'm looking at. So maybe I want to look at 4th grade. I can look at the standards of excellence here. And notice here I see the standard and then the pieces. So again, very standardized way that they approach those listing of the standards. So let's look at math very quick. We'll choose math. We'll choose the grade band that we're looking at. So maybe K5. And then over here on the side, we choose the grade level. So let's say 1st grade. And here's where you can look at the curriculum map as well as parent letters that are introducing the unit as well as the unit itself. And then here you can see the standards themselves. So again, looking at the PDF of the standard, you can scroll down. This just kind of gives an explanation. And then now is where you start to see the standards themselves. So here, here, you start to see the standards being used, broken apart. Now, in addition to that, you can look at the different units. And in the units, you'll see it's similar to a lesson plan, but it's got multiple pieces in it. So these are all activities that you can do to meet those standards for Unit 1, which is going to be creating routines and using data. So you can actually click on these, and they give basically a lesson plan that you can scroll through and look at that gives you all the pieces for it. So something that is helpful but also frustrating about the standards and the listing is they're all a little bit different. If you notice, science is listed a little bit different than social studies. And when you go to math, you come over here to the side, things are listing a little bit different. So you do kind of have to do a little bit of hunting to make sure you can find it. So let's maybe look at 6th, 8. So see here we have regular 6-8 as well as accelerated. You have the curriculum map and the units. You also have the standards listed here. So like let's look at Unit 2. So in Unit 2, 7th grade, you have listed under here, you have the different tasks or different assignments you could do. So we could click on these and it kind of gives you a lesson plan that can be developed. If you want to see the standards themselves, you click here and it will list those standards for you. High school is the one that gets the most complicated because you got to remember that it's not necessarily done by grade bands, it's done by subject area. So here you have algebra, coordinate algebra, geometry, pre-cal. So you have to look at all those different pieces and you kind of pick the one that you would be teaching at that point. So lastly, let's look at English language arts. So you click on English language arts, you'll choose your grade band. You can see the standards themselves, so we click on those. We scroll on down, we'll see the standard itself with the actual, you'll see the standard call number as well as the standard itself. And then if we go back, if we choose over here, we'll see the standards as well as a planning template, a teacher guide, a curriculum map. So this is the curriculum map for 2nd grade in regards to literacy. So you'll see the standards listed. And basically this is again is like a pacing guide of when and how long are we going to spend on those standards. And then here you'll see developmental progressions where we say basically at the beginning of second grade they should be doing this, in the middle of second grade they should be doing this, and then by the end of second grade they should be doing this. And you see this a lot in literacy because literacy builds on each other. And then you have a planning template that is basically like a lesson plan template that you can use, as well as some teacher guidance. That'll kind of give you basically similar to like a sample lesson plan. They just call it something different, where they give you the lesson, they give you the instructional strategies you can use, they give you the key terms, those type things. So again, it's all there. It's just a little bit different based upon the grade band. But that is where you're going to go to find your Georgia Standards of Excellence, and you're going to look at them by grade level and by subject area.